Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today as we focus in on these 7 commitments from the Sanctuary Model. If this is the first time that you're hearing about these commitments, think about a couple of the commitments that you feel connected to, or even a couple that you feel like you could use a little improvement on. In following these commitments, our goals as individuals, parents, or providers, or even an agency as a whole is to create a culture of innovation and build resilience within ourselves and those we encounter. So we'll look at each of the commitments today and talk a little bit about them and how they can apply to each of our lives. So before we dive into the commitments themselves, we want to lay down the base work of this, which is awareness. As we quickly had our lives altered, some in a matter of days or weeks, some have felt great impacts as they've experienced recent changes in their lives, their communities, their nation, and the world. And this may be you. You maybe have found yourself struggling to find balance of caring for yourself, standing up for change, maintaining safety for yourself and your loved ones, working a full-time job, and offering education to a young child. So we want to make sure that we have ways to identify our stressors and the impacts of those and build feedback in for ourselves. We want to really assess, are we filling or emptying our cup? And this could be things like connections, doing what we love, playing, having quiet, unstructured time, or they could be things that strain us too often, where we might have isolation and unhealthy boundaries with ourselves and others. So let's dive into those commitments and see how they apply to us. The first commitment that we're going to talk about is growth and change. And this is really allowing yourself time to process. In change, there is loss. And loss doesn't always mean anything is negative. It simply is that there is change, like a germination of a seed to a plant. As individuals, we want to focus on ways to hold hope, power, and empower a culture of positive change. And in using this commitment, we know that we will always have an offering of growth in every situation, even if situations don't go as expected or if outcomes aren't met. And as a parent, you may also want to allow your child, or as a partner, you may want your partner or coworker to have the opportunity to connect. Finding opportunities that feel less confrontational and uncomfortable is also really important. So going on a walk or driving, those are two ideas that reduce the tension and reduce the face-to-face interactions that allow for a calmer and more productive conversation at times. So it's important for us to provide the opportunity for each person to have a stake in what's happening in their lives. And this is where social learning comes into play. Social learning connects our past and our present, and this surrounds building and developing an understanding that mistakes happen and that we can learn from them. So with this commitment, we also want to hear and hold space for others' opinions. So take time to listen and consider what other people are saying, and keeping in mind that when we hold and participate in consistent feedback, that's actually really good for us. It allows us to know that we're connected with other people and that we're not alone, but also allows us to get the feedback that's fairly quick and allows us to make any changes as needed. So as we're looking at this, you'll find that connection is a really important piece of what we do, both for yourself and for other people. So in applying this, you'll want to find time to reflect. And again, this can be through in many different ways. It can be journaling, meditation, hiking, imagery, and more. And being connected with others, you may want to offer that connection and potential for growth to your partner, your child, your coworkers as well. You'll want to validate and address any emotions that others may have to a situation, and understand that your perspective and your emotions attached to that can look different than theirs. But we want to just validate what emotions they are feeling. And again, like I said, just reducing the confrontational encounters and really allowing for smooth conversation is important as well. So with our learning comes some responsibility, and it's our responsibility to take care and make changes as necessary. And social responsibility focuses on building social connection and establishing healthy boundaries and relationships for yourself and with others. And remembering that you're an important piece of the community. We all are. We're all important to our community, our families, our work teams, our clients, our children, and even strangers. So having that in mind, we have the responsibility to be responsive, to care for ourselves, and do what's morally right and support others in accountability in caring for themselves. So as people in the community, leaders, parents, partners, coworkers, etc., it's our responsibility to recognize the impact we have on others and practice taking care of ourselves and identifying where we can support each other. And this photo is really just a reminder that we are all role models for somebody else, someone we may know, someone we may not know, but we are responsible for our actions and can recognize the impact of them on other people and ourselves. The next commitment will be open communication. And with this commitment, it's really important to model it. So say what you mean, but not be mean when you say it. Be aware of microaggressions, use of pronouns and tone, and be sensitive, be respectful to each other. As our stressors increase, our tolerance goes down, our frustrations can easily arise and result in encounters which we probably wouldn't intend in a situation. And as those patterns, or our patterns in general, become automatic, we want to foster healthy communication and healthy boundaries. So it's okay to not have an automatic response. It's okay to take time to formulate your thoughts and words. We want to lead with grace and not harm. The next commitment is nonviolence, and this is really to assume the best intentions in others. And as you think of nonviolence, your initial thought may be around physical safety, which is absolutely true. But with this commitment, we also want to look at a culture of nonviolence as it relates to physical, psychological, social, cultural, and moral safety. And with nonviolence, we want to assume the best intentions in others, understanding that we're all doing the best that we can with what we have in that moment. So really leaning into empathy and gratitude with others. So we want to be aware of our impact on others. We want to know, what am I saying and doing that might help or harm a situation? If you need a break, if you need to take space, you need to go on a walk, or anything to allow yourself the time to gather your thoughts and words, do it. It's part of being balanced and emotionally intelligent. Not only for you, but it allows others the time and space to also do the same and to think about their responses as well. Our communication following taking a break really should be clear, concise, and gentle. You also want to make sure you're not going to compromise your boundaries with yourself for other people. So as you find what you need, lead with it. The next commitment that we're going to look at is emotional intelligence. And this is pretty important as human beings. Emotions are okay. And as we practice our emotions, we use this as a tool to focus on ways that we can be mindful with them and really look at considering the language that you're using in situations, but also consider the emotions of others as well and their emotional states. So we want to be able to identify and understand how our words, what words specifically and actions, are impacting the situation. And as again, our stressors are increased, our tolerance can go down. These can be pressured by emotions. So we want to use these as tools to contribute to increasing self-awareness as a key in functioning as a healthy community. So allow yourself to feel and use the coping skills to get through. But really, emotions are tools that help us understand what's going on in our world and check in with yourself to see if you've tipped. So you may want to practice opposite to emotion, finding preferred activity, a gross motor activity. Getting physical quickly is always a way to feel improvement emotionally. And having positive self-talk. You can have set affirmations, you can practice them out loud, you can listen to music, read, or you can remind yourself you're doing the best that you can, and finding the space to give yourself that's needed to be able to rebalance. So the last commitment we're going to look at is democracy. And in building a culture of democracy, we should remember that every voice counts. And as parents and partners, you may feel it difficult. Sometimes you just need things done. And that's the best we can do at that moment. And we should also really work to communicate the reasons for change. So as best as we can, we're including additional people in that communication around change and the reasoning and the purpose of that decision. So we want to be able to offer people the opportunity to have, again, a stake in their lives, what's happening, have the opinion, be heard and felt heard, and then make a collaborative decision together from there. Understanding that for safety reasons or as a leadership position, you may need to make decisions very quickly and immediately. But as we focus on building democracy and do our best to engage all parties in getting feedback as we have to make those immediate decisions, it makes it a little easier to accept. So as we look at these commitments and the foundations that lead to our caring interactions, you can find the importance of each, and you can also see the importance of them together and how they help balance us. And at times we may be imbalanced, and again, that's okay. And we want to be able to understand that we can learn from things. We are resilient. So practicing, reflecting, and then taking that opportunity to learn from them and having further growth and doing that over allows us to be able to make progress forward in life as we practice these 7 commitments. We also want to have connections with others. We don't want to do this by ourselves, and we need to be able to have those connections with others, but also offer when we're able to the connections with others as well. And remember that you're resilient. So because we're human, we learn. We learn that we can find continuous growth in situations, even when the preferred outcome doesn't happen. So that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining me. And I actually challenge you to incorporate these commitments into your daily life. Look at maybe journaling or talking to somebody about what you've heard a little bit about today and seeing what strengths are there and maybe what pieces could use some boosting. So take time to yourself, practice, reflect, and grow. Thanks so much for joining me today.